Now, Ian, we've talked about money, we've talked about budgets, and really quite, in many ways, rather depressing things. But we're going to talk about you, which hopefully is a bit happier. So, born just down the road.
I was born in Thriber, in Rotherham, which is probably about 8 to 9 miles away. And but my affinity with Doncaster Rovers goes back many years. My brother Glyn, everybody will know, who watched Rovers. My brother Glyn, 3 years older than me, played for the Rovers before I did, and then I joined them from school at 16 years old.
You were, it's interesting, isn't it? You did, by your own admission, you weren't that good at school.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't the brightest, but I was all right at football, PE.
And this was the thing you wanted to do?
I did. I went into a careers meeting, and the careers officer was sat there, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to play football." And he looked at me, he went, 1% play football. I said, "Well, my brother plays, I think I'm better than him." And it proved to be I was better than him.
Yeah.
So I just looked at my brother, Glenn, and I just wanted to play football.
Why do younger brothers always think they're better?
Do you know what? Growing up with Glenn and playing at his age group as well, 3 years above, helped me massively.
Because that's the interesting thing, isn't it? You actually, and of course, this club at the time had a manager who was a pretty legendary football figure going back to those years.
Do you know what, Nigel? I absolutely adored the man. I didn't like him. I was a Chelsea fan as growing up, because in the 1970 Cup final, Leeds played Chelsea.
We're talking, folks, about Billy Bremner.
Billy Bremner.
Who was a little fella, defender.
Hard as nails.
The game was a bit rougher in those days, wasn't it?
It was well rougher, to be quite honest. But I was a Chelsea fan, didn't like Leeds United, but when he came to Doncaster Rovers, he signed me as a schoolboy, and wow, did I take to him. I absolutely adored the man.
And you were playing for the side, aged?
16.
16?
Yeah, I just left school. 5 months later, I made my debut against Bournemouth, and I was actually substitute. Billy was player manager then, and Dave Bentley, a player who was getting on in age, had gone down injured, and Billy just looked at me at 16-year-old and went, "Get warmed up." With about 18 minutes to go, and I thought, kind of in my belly, I was kind of sick. I'm thinking 16, I'm going on in an old 4th division game, which were very, very aggressive players in it, but excited as well. And I wanted to get on, and I actually went on for Dave Bentley, and I played alongside Billy Bremner for 18 minutes. And wow, what a feeling. He told me where to go, he told me when to pass it, he made it so ridiculously easy for me.
But you were quite, really quite a prodigy, weren't you? Because you were captaining the team at a very young age.
I captained them at 18, he gave me the captaincy. Yeah, it was quite strange because my brother was 21, so I was captain above him. We had several experienced players as well, and for Billy to give me the captaincy at 18, he must have thought that I were captain material, and I got something about me.
Well, he believed in you, clearly, very, very much, gave you your big break, and time goes on, and you marry a girl.
I did. I married a girl, local girl, Joanne. She had Rita and Joe's cafe in the marketplace, so they owned that, and I used to go in for my free lunches, and I had 5 children to her. I've got 9 grandchildren, and they're all living in Doncaster.
And you built a house in Doncaster called?
I did. I built a house near Barnby Dun, Norththorpe Power Station. I built one out there, and I called it Bremner Lodge. and I called it that because if I got a nice house, and I thought if it wasn't for Billy Bremner, I wouldn't have had a nice house.
No, it's terrific.
So
you have your playing days, and then, Doncaster Rovers go through their ups and downs, and of course, in these lower divisions, money, always an issue with clubs. But in the end, you come back and you're player manager.
I was playing at Scarborough. I'd still got another year left. Doncaster Rovers had gone down into the conference. They were getting crowds of 400 by then. It goes to the old chairman. He didn't want to have a Doncaster Rovers team, apparently. He didn't want a team in Doncaster. So the crowds were 400. They approached me and my brother Glyn and said, "Would you come back as manager and assistant?" And we took the opportunity. And at the time, we didn't have anywhere to train. We didn't have a ball. We didn't have any kit. We didn't have anything. Doncaster Rovers, nobody would sponsor them. They had it rock bottom. They were going out. And I remember the chairman who took over when I got the job, John Ryan, I remember him carrying a coffin with loads of supporters from Doncaster Town Centre to the ground because they didn't think that Doncaster Rovers were going to exist after that last game. So when I came in as manager, I had 7 players left at the club. I had 2 weeks to get a team. And our first game was down at Dover. Couldn't be any further away for the Rovers fans. So we took that day, 15th of August, never forget it because it's my birthday.
It's mine too.
Is it? We took 1,500 fans down to Dover.
Wow.
And then we played Southport on the Tuesday for our first home game. And I'm sat in my little office, I picked the team, 8:15 kick-off, it's 7:15. I get a knock on my door, and it's a sergeant police, and I thought, he went, can I have a word? I'm thinking,
what now?
Oh, it's the old chairman back at the club, what's happening? And he went, Ian, we're going to have to delay the kick-off. I said, why? He went, come with me. We went to the front door of Doncaster Rovers' ground, and he went, that's why. And there were about 15 queues of people, 200 yards long. Our crowd that night were 4,500.
Did you save Doncaster Rovers?
Yeah. I don't like saying I did.
No. Come on. If you hadn't done what you'd done, would this club
I
even
thought
exist?
the people of Doncaster, like me and Glyn, as football players, knew what we meant to Doncaster Rovers, and I think they give their support for me and Glyn and Doncaster Rovers.
Well, it's fantastic. And a couple of lovely local stories. Tell us about Le Bistro.
Does anybody know about Dennis Mullally and the Bistro? There used to be a local paper come out every Thursday, the Free Press, and Dennis Mullally had put, and he didn't know anything about football, Dennis. He don't know anything about anything, Dennis. He's a brilliant friend of mine. He has been for 40 years. But he put in the paper Free Press, anybody who scores for Doncaster Rovers, they can come in and have a free meal. So the week later, I'm about 18-year-old, I've scored the goal, we've won 1-0. So I thought, I'll go down and see Dennis. So I text my mate in as well. So he said to me, I said, Dennis, Ian Snodin, Doncaster Rovers, I've scored the goal. He went, come in. I said, this is my friend as well. He said, yeah, come in, have what you want. I had never had a fillet steak at 18-year-old. I hadn't. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I looked at the menu and I thought, that looks the most expensive thing. I did. I said, I'll have the fillet steak. He went, how do you want it cooking? And now I'm thinking, how do I want it cooking? So my mate just said, get it well done, safe side. So I said, well done, please. So we had a fillet steak. So the week later, we're playing Brentford away in London. We get beat 2-0. So we're on the way back, and I've summed Dennis up, and I'm thinking, he don't know who Rovers players are. He ain't got a clue about football. So I just said to Dave Hall, who used to play same age as me, and I said, Dave, I'm starving, are you? On his way back from London, I went, we'll go into Dennis's place in Bistro and tell him we've won 2-0. Seriously. I said, me and you have scored. I said, he won't have a clue who we are. And we'll get... So we goes in and he went, hey lads, he went, you're that young lad that scored last week. I said, yeah, me and Dave scored. We've won 2-0 down at Brentford. He went, come in, and he's pulled 2 chairs out for us. He's even given us a sweet. We had chocolate fudge cake as well.
I love it.
Seriously. We took him, and then we went for a walk round Silver Street, had a few pints. So his wife, Carol, the next day, she's reading the paper, and she went, oh, any Rovers boys in? He went, oh yeah, that young lad Snowden and his mate Dave Hall come in, they won 2-0, they both scored. She went, it says in my paper here, Brentford 2, Doncaster Rovers 0. And he went, they've had me over big time.
It's a lovely story.
It's brilliant.
You've been, of course, you're Doncaster Rovers Hall of Fame, everything. You're now, a few seconds left on the show, you're acting as an ambassador across the other side of the Pennines for Everton, who for the first time in their history are going to go down, aren't they?
No, they're not. Don't say that. They're not going down. But yeah, I signed for Everton. It were a big thing, either Everton or Liverpool. I chose Everton.
Yeah.
And I'm now still employed after 36 years by Everton as a club ambassador.
Well, you know what, Ian, I can tell with your enthusiasm and your optimism that whatever you do, you give it absolutely 100%. Big hand for Ian Snodin, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nigel.